Iowa Debris and Jennifer Lopez on talent.
Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm the CakeDive, and I hope y'all are doing well because guess who just scrapped their album? y'all, if y'all been following Vlogmas, and by the way, it's the 17th day of Vlogmas. We're so close to the end. I'm kind of shocked that we've made it this far with very few hiccups. The biggest hiccup that we have right now is that I haven't released all the episodes yet on other streaming platforms. Y'all, if y'all listening, I'm so sorry for the delay. I'm gonna get on that as soon as possible. We're gonna drop all those episodes, okay? But that being said, we got the 17th day of Vlogsmas. A couple episodes ago, I was talking about Lil Nas X and this DREAMBOY era, and why a lot of people just seem to not care about this album era. Recently, as in yesterday, a source, well, it was a at ABTLAB Insider, who sometimes they're reliable and sometimes they're not. So this is all alleged rumors, but they posted yesterday that allegedly Lil Nas X had scrapped this DreamBoy album. His label, Columbia Records, hated the project when they listened to it and asked for a brand new album from scratch, and apparently only 3 songs are being saved. And it seems as it I'm assuming that this is in regards to the DreamBoy album, because it wasn't specified that this was like the DreamBoy album. For all we know, it could very well just be like them providing context on the previous album that like Jay Christ was going to be on, but we knew that album was scrapped. But we're going forward, and we're just, for this case, we're assuming that the DreamBoy album has been scrapped. And honestly, I'm not surprised that this is the case, because the issue is that Columbia has a lot of faith in Lil Nas X, and they really want him to succeed. They saw him as like R&B pop star, like male R&B pop star up next, because he really busted on the scene with Old Town Road. And I know I've talked about this before in the previous episode. Please go listen to that previous episode if you haven't already. But Old Town Road, previous albums like Long Live Montero and all that type of stuff has, like the Montero album, and those different things have all really cemented him in like the pop culture zeitgeist for a good moment of time. Then Jay Christ comes out. He kind of is rehashing a lot of the things that he's done in his previous works, and people are like disgusted with it. They think it's distasteful, and not in a good way. They just think he's lazy and uninventive, and they cast him to the wayside. He disappears for a few months. He does a couple singles, a couple Lucy's here and there, but nobody's really talking about him for real. And he comes back and teases the DreamBoy era. I think the biggest reasons why they told him to scrap this album, one, because of the music. Like, I think that the music was, as someone who listened to both the singles, the music was fine, but it doesn't sound like the step in the direction that Lil Nas X probably should be going in. And again, out of the 2 singles that we got from this DreamBoy era, that's most, like, at this point we're assuming is being scrapped, Light Again was my favorite and seemed to be the better performing out of the 2 singles that we got. And you have, him promoting this era and him teasing this era and showing visuals of this era, and people aren't moving. Like, people aren't excited for it, and people weren't talking about it. Again, in the previous episode, I talked about how there's a whole Twitter account and there are whole social media accounts promoting this era and teasing, showing visuals and teasing this thing, this project, and nobody was moving for it. And it's one thing if it was like a fairly new artist who is like trying to get that push or something like that, like Chloe, when she stepped into her solo bag and she had success, and then they kind of struggled to like recaptivate it, or like there was issues with the label that could be attributed to that. for example, the In Pieces era and even like the release of Trouble in Paradise. But Columbia was giving this album, or was seemingly giving this project a good push. Like they were promoting the single. They were really pushing Light Again. They were doing ads and running ads and promotions for Light Again. They were giving him a little bit of a push. It wasn't as strong of a push as, say, like J. Christ, because J. Christ was definitely supposed to be his big single and his next big break. But they were trying to push it in a safe, well, not even a safe way, in a money-saving way without really just like leaving him to dust. And then Need That Boy, they just gave up on it and didn't push it. And I think them having him scrap this album is probably a smart decision, because I think that they really, again, they need him to be successful. That's obvious because they make money off of him. But I think that the issue is that they kind of realized that Lil Nas X doesn't know what his next sound is going to be. And like everyone's on panic mode. You had Lil Nas X who was thinking that like everyone was going to be like really riding for him with the J. Christ era, and that he's going to be doing most of the same. And again, people, the public, the listeners, outright rejected him and said, we're not listening to this anymore. We've kind of grown out of this. Like, what's next? And he's kind of like, oh, okay. And he's been teasing different songs throughout the, period of time. And this era has kind of been, I would kind of contribute it almost similar to like the CXOXO era, like something that is a little bit of a sidestep from what, because with Camila Cabello with CXOXO, which I can actually talk about in drag because when I've talked about it before in the podcast, but too, Lil Nas X and Camila Cabello seem to be friends and like collaborate on that project together. CXO was a genre shift for Camila Cabello, and her heart wasn't in it. Critics have frequently said that she seemed to have taken a backseat on that album, and she sounded uncomfortable on the album. And most of the tracks that people enjoyed off of that album, people enjoyed because of the features, like the last City Girls collab that we got from that album, or I Love It with the feature that was on that. It seems like Lil Nas X was seemingly possibly going to end up in that direction. Like this seemed to be a little bit of a different tone and shift for him in terms of music compared to like his previous eras like Montero and stuff like that. It seemed to be a little bit more geared towards like TikTok success and TikTok music type vibes. And the girls wasn't really gagging by it. Like the girls wasn't really gagging by it as much as like they probably wanted to, especially less than what Columbia Records was hoping to. That's why they scrapped the whole thing. But I think that he really needs to, and I think that they were also hoping that this was going to be a really swing in the park, because of the fact that it was months in between, J. Christ and Light Again, where we were really getting a, major Lil Nas X project or like song or rollout from him. So for this to be another like misfire is really rough, both looking probably inside for like Columbia and Lil Nas X, and also outside. But Lil Nas X has talent. I think he just needs to really take a step back, discover that within him, and figure out like what exactly he needs to do to both recapture the success and like popularity that like people gave him in the past, while also improving and growing and maturing and really being like an artist that people actually care about, and like is not just a trend, because he had his trends with the songs like Old Town Road and that one song with Jack Harlow. But he'll figure his way out at some point. Like worst thing that they can do is just drop him from Columbia. But, they have a lot of money sunk into him, so who knows if that would even happen. But wish him nothing but the best on that. Hopefully he can give us some better music. Maybe we can find a studio so we can play some beats. But that's my thoughts on the rumors. Do I think that the rumors are true? Absolutely, because it seems like, again, I think Columbia was hoping that the singles would do a lot better than they ended up doing, especially Light Again. It seemed to be like that was supposed to be his big comeback song, and that wasn't the case. But they'll figure it out, you know. Well, I was, and you know, before I said the worst they could do is drop him, but the other thing that they could do is just do what they do to like what Chloe Bailey and just like say, here, damn, here's the album, and just not push it and not approve anything for him, and he's just kind of like basically an independent artist without the independence. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to gag on that too much. But that was my thoughts on the whole situation. The whole rumors of Lil Nas X potentially getting this album scrapped. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about the rumors, if y'all think it's true. Would y'all have listened to the DreamBoy album if it is in fact getting canceled? Or would you have not touched it? You know, do you think Lil Nas X can come back from this? Do you think he's going to come back with bigger and better with, you know, better music, with new music that's really going to like capture audiences? Or is he just going to disappear into the wayside because people are tired of him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening to the Cake Radio Show on the 17th day of Vlogmas. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to the YouTube channel where you get episodes before anybody else. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platforms, because we are essentially everywhere, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe. Well, follow. It's called follow. Be sure to follow. Turn on notifications. Share the podcast with your friends and give the show a rating because it helps. Thank y'all so much for listening. I'll see y'all day 18. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.